So, and I've said this already here once, this quotation is on a post-it note on my computer in my office. Everything you do sends a message. What messages do you want to send to your kids? What message do we want to send as a school? What message do we want to send as a community, the courts, the police, everybody in terms of how we should deal with these situations? Okay? Yes, alcohol is legal, and I'm not here to say that I don't ever drink any alcohol. I do. I'm 41. I'm old enough to do that, and if I'm smart, I'm doing that in moderation, in appropriate ways. I'm not getting behind the wheel of a car and those kinds of things. But it may take a long time. I'm probably past 25, but eventually my brain developed, and I try to use some good judgment on those things. But whatever we do as parents, if we're telling kids it's okay to drink in my basement, if you think they're not off drinking everywhere, every other place that they possibly have a chance whenever they can, then you are crazy. Okay? You are absolutely fooling yourself in the head with this. If your kids are drinking in your basement, they're drinking in his basement, her basement, and everybody else's whenever they have a chance. Because that is their social lifestyle. So you're either encouraging that or you're discouraging it. Can they go do it even if you discourage it? Yes. But what message do you want your kids to get? So this is a list of 7 things that comes from this article, What Makes Teens Tick. What you do matters? Absolutely. What you do matters. Again, we talked about some of those things, permissive, or do you have a culture in your home? Do we have a culture at school of disapproval of these kinds of things? Do we give kids reason to say no? You have a reason to say no because, my parents are going to kill me if I ever do this. Do I have a reason to say no because you don't have any athletics and activities and probably get caught for doing this kind of stuff? I have a lot to lose. And the kids who tend to lose the most are the ones that some parents think, well, not my kid, my kid's the honor student. My kid gets great grades, they're NHS, and community service, they're a really good athlete, their friends all seem to be great people, I know their parents. Those are all great things. They promise you nothing. Okay? One of these we had not too long ago, Erica Kornhoff was here, who was all those things, NHS, honor student, all that kind of stuff, and she had major, she was part of this thing where we get all these pictures. People like to send anonymous stuff these days, all these pictures, because kids these days like to put pictures of everything they do on the internet. And then people who want to see those kids that have a high profile fall on their pedestal, they send us the pictures anonymously, and then we file for an investigation. Erica was one of the kids who got caught in that situation. She lost a class officer. Eventually we did let her speak at graduation because she did so much to earn herself back in good graces. She was a class officer, she was an athlete, all kinds of things. And very, very much lost a ton of things because of the accountability for them. So it's important that we understand that there's accountability for these kinds of things. But one thing I'd like to say about that, in some of the work here with this organization to try to get parents involved, one of the things that we hear is that some parents are feeling that believe that the school administration and the police department, that we just want to drill kids. We just want to nail them. We want to get them in trouble. We want to discipline them. We want to catch them for doing wrong. Okay? And if that's the case, why am I here? Why would I want you to discourage your kids from this kind of behavior? If that's what the goal is of us, is to catch kids doing things wrong. I don't want to catch kids doing wrong. I want kids to do right because it's what's healthy for them. And one of the factors that we have are rules. And did anybody here ever had Love and Logic for parenting? Okay, there's some people in there. Okay, you've had Love and Logic, which is a great program. I'm going back for my wife and I for a refresher course for our 7-year-old and our 5-year-old because it's not easy. It's the right thing, but it's not easy. It's all about natural consequences and decision-making, building good decision-makers in your kids. So I'll promise you one thing. If your child violates the athletic code, by the way, you sign and they sign. You know the rules and so do they. And they go out there drinking at Miller Park or somewhere else, which, by the way, your kid goes with their friends to Miller Park, they're just their friends. That's the place that a lot of my kids like to go and drink in the parking lot at Miller Park. Okay? So something for you to watch out and be aware of. But if they violate that athletic code, okay, and even though they did that, and you suddenly become more concerned about the fact that they're going to miss a third of their season, and the fact that they were drinking, and you come in and you appeal to me, which is your right to do, and that's fine. There is a much greater chance I'm going to see your kid. I've seen it again and again parents that come fight every battle for their child, instead of letting them face their natural consequences, are the kids I see into the same behavior. Because everything they do sends a message. The message to me as a kid is, well, I can go screw up. Mom and dad are going to come to my defense and raise hell. Even if I still end up suspended, at least they gave the school out of grief about it. Versus parents who I've seen said, look, you're screw up, you go in and talk to the principal and defend yourself and talk about why you shouldn't be this and that. Okay? The whole point of love and logic is let's have them experience accountability and deal with mistakes, and that life has consequences before they get bigger. That boy from New Mexico, he experiences consequences when they get to be really big. I'd much rather have your kids experience them when they're small. Miss a few games in high school, in the season, that stings, I know. It would have killed me to miss a wrestling match in high school. It's not that big of a deal. And if your kid learns that accountability through that, that's important. So stay involved. You know, I tell this when the parents come in, and those of you who are at the freshman preview, when your kids are coming out on 8th grade, I say this every year. Kids will tell you to stay out of their business. You know, it's high school. I want you to leave them alone, give them their space, and I say ignore it. Okay? Go in their rooms, know what's going on. We know these stay involved in their life. You have to give them. You want to build independence, and you want to give them space to some extent. But they, in reality, in many ways, need you more involved in their lives than they ever do at that age, because the older they get, the consequences for their decisions have bigger implications. They need limits, and then you need to, at the same time, what I'm saying, be involved and provide structure. You need to really start fostering independence. Some of that's letting them face accountability. If they have a problem with a teacher, they're struggling in class, my advice to you, let your kid go try to work out with that teacher. Okay? You know, if your initial reaction is, I'm going to call the principal, then after you have your call, instead of telling your kid, don't talk to your teacher yourself. Try to handle your own business. You know, that is part of them fostering independence, learning how to handle their own things. That develops that decision making. And in the end, if there's a real issue, there's a problem, then we'll get together, we'll work on it. Have your kid solve their problems first. Build that independence. Explain your decisions, you know, and change your parenting. As kids get older, they expect what you're doing makes sense. They're more sophisticated. They'll do it because I told you so. You know, that's not really a good enough reason for teenagers. You know, to let them respect you, your decisions have to make some sense as well. So those are some tips for parenting. Here's kind of what we believe at Franklin High School, that we believe in being proactive through communication by using a system of deterrence and supports. We communicate the athletic code because, look, here's a standard. You know, and because it's a privilege, we have more ability to try to influence kids' behaviors. You're an example, you're a role model, we expect you to follow these rules and guidelines. We bring drug dogs into school multiple times a year. Why? Because we expect kids not to bring drugs into school. It's real simple. And if I have students who are thinking about doing that, but they know the dogs might come in and they don't do it, that's good. I'd rather not have a problem. Don't bring the drugs to school. Let's try to keep that as a safe environment. Because we know that this is a place where you can be taught for those things. And again, we're creating that culture where we don't approve of this kind of stuff. Progressive approach to discipline. Contrary to some people's opinion, it is not our goal to nail kids to a cross. Although I'll tell you what, when we do discipline kids, in athletics in particular, because that tends to be what becomes more public, we usually get two kinds of response. Some people never want to see that kid ever sniff a floor again. And they want really draconian measures. Other people, usually the people who are as their child, don't want the consequences to be very strong. And the whole point is we're not looking to take a pound of flesh. We're looking at enough accountability and we kind of try to teach you from that experience. It's got to sting a little bit, otherwise we don't learn much. Okay? But the way that our athletic code, for example, is developed is the merit system, and it's progressive, and the consequences increase over time because we're trying to get your attention with as little discipline as possible so that you start to change in some of your decision making. Okay? And again, it depends on the severity of the behavior. So we believe that partnerships with parents and the community are essential in addressing the dangerous societal issues that affect our kids. That's what this is about. That's why you're here. That's why this organization exists. And that parents talking to each other. All right, my son's coming over to your house and tells me, I don't think you've met. My name is so-and-so. Are you going to be home? What kinds of things are going on tonight? No, they're going to be kind of going on. You can interact with them and check with them in the basement once in a while. They're down there. Great. Well, please call me. I want you to know that I really kind of I let them have their fun, but I keep on top of them. We don't allow any drugs or alcohol or tobacco or stuff in our house. So call me if you need anything. Have those parent relationships that don't seem to happen as often, many times as they used to. But we're communicating, we're talking. We think that we're far more successful.